Have you ever gone camping all by yourself? You're listening to the RV Life Podcast. I'm Dan Hunt with my incredible wife, Patty Hunt. And today's guest has not only gone camping alone, but she's been doing it for over 3 years.
Now, in the 2.5 plus years that we've been full-time on the road, we have never been solo camping. So we camp together. But what was really cool is not only does she solo camp, but they camp together. And we've done some of that where we've met groups of people and friends that we've gone camping with.
You know, Patty, I think you got to speak for yourself there because we had a family emergency and you deserted me down in Florida. So I did some solo camping down in Florida all by myself.
Oh, yeah, I guess that's true. You did. You traveled for a good month. So I guess you could say you are a solo camper. Wow.
Yes, maybe she'll let me in the group, but I don't think so. I actually prefer camping with you and me. It's just a lot more fun.
It certainly is. I think we'll stick to camping together.
Yes. Now, you know, we have done some stuff with groups. We went out to Quartzsite and we went out into Arizona, into the desert, and we were with like a whole group of people and we made the big round circle and all camped together. I really enjoy that kind of camping with this big group of people, even though we're all kind of alone together.
Okay. And if we're being honest, I did enjoy that time. We were with friends, we met other people, and it was a fantastic time. But I got to be honest, I do like our together alone time sometimes. So I guess I need a little bit of both.
How about you out there? We'd like to start a conversation and we could do that on social media, either on our Instagram page or over on our Facebook page. But let's have a conversation. How do you feel about solo camping? Today's fun fact, some of the numbers are outrageous. We're going to get to that in a few minutes, but have you ever been solo camping? I think we should put a post up there that says, yes, I have, or no, I haven't. And also, you know, do you look forward to going out into the wilderness and spending some time on your own?
And that's a great conversation to have, put what's worked for you, what hasn't, what have you learned out there? And those social media channels are RV Life Podcast. As Dan said, either Instagram or Facebook. Certainly send us a private message. I answer every message that comes through.
You know, that sounds like a pretty good idea for a video over on our YouTube channel, Exploring Through Our Lens as well. Now, that sound means it's time for today's fun fact. And today's fun fact is brought to you by Open Roads Resorts with locations in Texas, Montana, and Idaho. And after the fun fact today, Patty and I are going to tell you all about a couple of those resorts. But Patty, what is today's fun fact?
The fun fact, in 2022, 16% of Americans took a solo trip. 16%. I thought that was an interesting number. Now in 2023, 25% of Americans, that's about 83 million people, are considering taking a solo trip. So Dan, 2023, you're now part of that statistic, that 25% statistic. So these statistics aren't if you solo camp all the time, but if you've taken a solo trip. That's a lot of number. That's a big number.
It really is. You know, you look at 83 million people are considering taking a solo trip this year. 83 million people want to get away from everybody that they know, and they want to get away from their family and just hang out in the woods all by themselves. itself. That is a very, very big number.
Now, I just want to jump in because I am so excited about open road resorts. As Dan said, there's one located in Texas, there are Montana and Idaho. We have not been there yet, but we are planning our trip there. And I am so excited because when Chase spoke on the podcast just a few weeks ago, he painted a picture that just made me say, yes, I got to go to this resort and visit the places that are nearby.
Now, I'm going to just take this one step further because I've been thinking about this for days. I want you to, if you're driving in the car, I don't want you to close your eyes. But if you're not driving in the car, if you're just walking or you're doing something, just stop for a second, close your eyes and consider this. Think about it's a late afternoon and you're in Montana or Idaho, right outside of a national park, and the sun is setting. And as a matter of fact, you're on a horse and you come up over a hill and you look down and there's a big fire down there and they are cooking steaks that you're going to ride your horse down to this area. And you're going to have a steak that is cooked over an open campfire. I can't think of anything that is more delicious than that.
That sounds amazing. And it's funny because we just had one of our listeners ask if Dan has ever done voice like radio. And there's the voice and there's the picture. Yes, he definitely has. So he's helped paint that picture. And again, I can't wait to go to one of the open road resorts. I am just so excited. We are going to get that booked over the next couple weeks.
I'll tell you what, the place is just incredible. The ownership is incredible. The people that work there are incredible. It is a place, if you are going anywhere up in that area of Idaho and Montana, you really want to go and check out these resorts because they are just beautiful. There's a link down in the notes below to exactly where you can get information about the open roads resorts.
And a discount. So Chase Becker is one of the owners, and he actually offered our listeners a discount. And as Dan said, that is in the show notes. Now, I got to say, if you're a listener and you have a good idea for a podcast, please send us a message privately on one of our social media. You could also catch us on our website at Exploring Through Our Lens. Any way you want to reach out to us. Today's guest, and this is what I'm really super excited about, is the first listener that reached out to us. We've had many listeners reach out, but the first one that has become a podcast guest. And we're so excited to have her on the show today.
You know, it really is great to get that interaction with the people. We love talking to you out there. But if you've got a story, if you've got something to say that you think the RV community would really like to hear, reach out to us and we'll get you on the show because that's exactly what we're doing today. It's the first time that we've done it and we are so looking forward to it. And we're going to get to that right after this.
The most important part of your RV is the roof. If your roof leaks, your trip and your RV get ruined. You can take it to a dealership or service center to be maintained at their expensive rates. Or you can maintain it yourself over a weekend for a fraction of the cost. Liquid Rubber RV roof products will keep you dry and leak-free. Visit shopliquidrubber.com/RVLife. Use coupon code RVLifePod15 to save 15%. That's shopliquidrubber.com/RVLife.
National Indoor RV Centers with over 1,000 motorhomes available across multiple locations. National Indoor RV Centers continues to provide an outstanding hassle-free motorhome ownership experience. National Indoor is the #1 Newmar dealer in the nation and also features brands like Integra, Winnebago, and much more. Visit nirvc.com and become a part of the National Indoor RV Centers family. This is the RV Life Podcast. Our guest today was a cop for 26 years and decided she wanted to see the world. All her stuff, she gave her fine china to her daughter who, guess what? She didn't really want it, but she's holding it for her kids today. I just don't know what they're thinking. She joined a solo camping club. She liked it so much, she bought it. And now she's dreaming of her next circuit for the club of going to Alaska.
Today, we're talking to Jenell Jones, and she has an amazing story of solo camping together. Welcome to the RV Life Podcast.
Good morning, and thank you guys for having me on. Everything you said is true. I decided to go and see the world and start RVing solo.
So let's talk about that for a second. Let's go all the way back to when you first started RVing, your last day on the job. What were you thinking? Was this a dream that you've always had, or what was the thought process of getting in an RV, turning the key, and hitting the road?
Across the street from the office of the sheriff's office was a Provost dealer. So I thought RVs were buses and cost $1 million. And so I saw this over the years and people driving off. And I thought, I want to go do that. I stopped in one day. They let me look through. And I thought, I'll have to drive and work another 100 years before I can afford this. I started noticing other RVs that you don't have to have a Provost. And so the dream slowly started over about 8 years. And I just started researching and looking at RVs.
Now, when you did decide to jump in, you jumped in with both feet. What did you do with your stuff?
Well, jump in is right. You know how you're supposed to start small and go big? Oh, no, not me. I literally lived the go big or go home. I bought a 36-foot RV. And I remember, except for a couple of walkthroughs, I'd never been in an RV and I'd never driven an RV. I sold everything I owned, put the rest of the stuff in the garage, and then loaded up that RV and drove off.
Now, most people, me, I have always had this dream of traveling the country in an RV and seeing it. And I could never afford it. I was always on, this movie set or that movie set or this movie set. And I was in these beautiful, beautiful RVs all the time. But it was always my dream. When did the thought of living this kind of a lifestyle come to you?
Well, honestly, it's from those Provosts. I would see people getting in them and, I'd drive by one day and there'd be people loading stuff. I'd drive by next day and somebody's backing it up. And I'm like, where are they going? What are they doing? I had traveled on and off to Europe when money and time would allow, because, I thought that's what you do. You travel to Europe and traveled some for work. But I thought, why keep going to Europe? Why not stay? I'd never even seen the Grand Canyon. I was 54 years old, hadn't seen the Grand Canyon, but I'd been to Paris twice. I mean, something was off here. So just the more I saw those Provosts, the more I started noticing other RVs, I realized this could be a life.
Okay, so you just kept watching this out your window from where you were working, and you decided, all right, I've got to buy an RV. So you buy the RV. And most people, I think a lot of people, we went 15 miles from the house that we sold, and we decided to stay put for a month and get used to the RV, figure things out, organize things. How, when you got the RV and you got in, what did you do?
Well, again, I go back to the go big or go home. I bought the RV in Fort Worth, Texas, literally drove out of the parking lot, took a left, and drove straight to California. They do the walkthrough for an hour. And I was like, I got this. I mean, I was a cop. I worked in bad neighborhoods. I can drive an RV. How hard can it be? Oh my gosh. I didn't have hot water for a week. I was boiling hot water for the shower. Literally. I'm in this big fancy rig and I'm boiling hot water to take a shower.
And I know all of our listeners out there have that first trip story. But I want you to do me a favor and think back. You turn left, you drove out of the dealership and you're on your way to California. Tell me about the first time all by yourself with nobody else there to help that you had to dump your tanks. I know that's not the greatest thing to talk about, but but it's a story that every RVer sits around a campfire and talks about your first time. Tell me that experience of dumping those tanks.
Well, you're right about that. So the first night I drove to, I want to say a KOA or something. And I'd already been in the RV, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 hours, but I thought I should dump. I didn't know, I didn't know. So I managed to do the hose. I got it set up okay. That was fine. And then I didn't know, I couldn't remember which one of the levers he said. I pulled them both at once. I don't know. I thought they should mix and, go down. I don't know. Then, okay, so nothing's coming out. So I do one, then do the other. Of course, I did the gray first and then the black, which, you're not supposed to do it that way. And surprisingly, not that much came out because I think maybe I had washed my hands, gone to the bathroom once or twice. And I was like, oh no, something's wrong. It's stuffed up in the RV somewhere. No, yeah, you live and learn. Do you want to hear about the time I dumped the black on my feet, or is that another show?
I think that might be a show when we're together one night. I might have to have a drink or two before we talk about that one. It's really interesting that you talk about that. Do you feel, and I want to be very real right now, because everybody that's listening to this show either has an RV, owns an RV, or wants an RV. Do you feel that those issues that you had that very first time that you did everything wrong, do you feel it was that the dealership didn't give you enough training, or that you were just so anxious to get out of there you weren't really listening? You figure, I got it.
I'm going to go with yes to all that. I wish that the dealer would give you more than a walkthrough. I wish that for sure. I was so overwhelmed that I couldn't remember everything. But, they've sold it and they're in the business to keep moving on. And then I should have done more research for sure. And I'd listened to podcasts. I had been on YouTube. So, I'm ready. And I'm like, how hard can it be? I literally thought that. I saw everybody else driving. If they can do it, I can do it. Again, I go back to driving a patrol car. I could do anything if I can do that. So I thought there'd be a learning curve. Oh my God, was there? But I also adjusted my attitude. I'm like, I'm going to be up for the adventure of this. Things are going to go wrong. As long as I don't die, what? I got insurance. I got some money. I'll take care of it. Literally, that was my attitude.
Wow, that's an attitude. And the teacher in me, the parent in me, the educator says, don't do what you did. You got in an RV after an hour of training. I do know there are some dealers or dealerships, companies now that you could go to and they show you the whole thing. They spend some time. I think that's probably a better idea, because what about driving it? Now, I personally, we have a 40-foot, for those people who don't know, Monaco, Class A, and I've never driven our RV. I've never driven a cop car either. So for those people listening, how difficult was it to get in and drive 36 foot? How difficult was just the driving of it?
And remember, I had a tow because, I'm all in. I had a tow behind me. Patty, all I can say is I got in and I did it. I keep using the word jumped in. I literally jumped in. I'm either going to do this or I'm not. And I know it's, very cliche, but I thought, well, as long as I don't die, hopefully I don't hurt anybody else. I see other people doing it. I can do this. And so I literally got in and just, and the salesman on the way out of the parking lot, he goes, please don't hit anything on the way out. I'm like, I won't. Get away from me.
I guess he didn't care once you got out. Just don't hit anything on the way out. Okay.
Exactly.
Now, you've got a few years of experience under your belt now. How do you feel about driving today and knowing what you know today? You think you might have done it differently if you could tell yourself to do something different today?
I would like to think that I would do things differently, but I still do things. I just keep going. I want to have a life. I want to enjoy this life. I want both feet into this RV life. I've gone 4-wheeling in this RV accidentally. I've driven down an 8-mile gravel road with no turn offs. Literally. And I kept thinking, how am I going to get out of here? And ahead of me was a bridge that was no wider than my RV. And I thought, well, I'm going across this bridge. And I get out and it's a wood bridge. And I look down and it's water. I open my window, put my purse across me, said a prayer to God, and drove across. I thought, you know what? I'm doing this. So to your question, would I do things differently? I like to think I would, but probably not.
Wow. Okay. I just have to say right here, right now, RV Life sponsors this podcast. And they have what's called RV Trip Wizard, which Jenell, you're familiar with.
Yes.
And I've got to say to all of our listeners, do not do what you did. Don't go out there, put it in RV Trip Wizard. Know that you could go down that road. Not many. If that had happened to us, I would have gotten out of the RV and quit right there and been done with it right at that moment. So I don't have the kind of guts you have. So now let's talk about the fact that you're on the road solo, as you like to say. How did that feel? Was that scary? Like, what was it like being on the road solo?
It was scary. Now, I'm used to being in a patrol car by myself. Okay, so I keep coming back to that, but that's really what helped me do all this. I know what my limits are. I knew what my limits were. I know my stepdad was a truck driver, and he, of course, my mom and my stepdad were dying me doing this, but he said, just pull in a rest stop, stay at rest stops, because if you have a problem, a trucker will more than likely help you. He said, there may be the one serial killer, so try to look out for that one. But otherwise, a truck driver is going to help you. And I felt comfort in that. The first night when I stayed in a truck stop, I was so scared. I went back in my bed and I just laid there with my phone right by me and have a horn thingy. I laid there and nothing happened. It was fine. It was fine. But, you have that sense of adventure and it works out.
You have what I'm going to say is the most refreshing attitude that Patty and I have heard in a very, very long time. So, let's talk about that first trip that you did. Other than really screwing up dumping the tanks the first time, can you tell us another story that happened on that first trip that you wouldn't wish on anybody out there?
Okay, let's talk about when I first got gas. I knew to pull in and swing wide. So I pulled in, I swung wide, and jackknifed the RV and the Jeep around the gas pumps. I am blocking. This is like the second day, maybe. I'm blocking the gas station. The owner comes out and I'm like, sir, I know, I can see. I can see what I'm doing. It's so jackknifed. I have a hard time unhooking the Jeep from the RV. Remember, I've only hooked up this Jeep one time with help. So I had to unhook it, get straightened out, still get gas, find the gas tank. So yeah, it was an adventure. It was quite the adventure.
Wow, I am hysterical. I'm sorry, I'm laughing. I'm hysterical. I wish I had it on video because it would definitely go viral. Definitely a what not to do. You could probably write a book on what not to do in RV travel. So at some point you make it to California. What did you do when you got there and why California?
Because I had finally done a little research and I found an RV group for solo travelers. So I thought, well, I don't know where else to go. Literally, I have this life and I have no other agenda. So I go to California and they're having this gathering and I saw a bunch of people sitting around and I walked up and I said, are you guys this group I'm looking for? And they're like, yeah, sit down. And I've been traveling with them ever since.
That is just incredible. I'm going to go back to your mindset and say that, Patty, this mindset is just incredible, right? I mean,
it really is. And that's what it's all about.
Jenell, you can move in with us anytime you want, because when that kind of positive outlook on life, that's what we do every single day of our life and how we live our life. But right now, we do have to pay some of the bills. So right after the break, we're going to talk about these solo groups that are solo, but there's 150 people or so together. And how does that work? We're going to talk about romance on the road. And we're going to talk about Jenell like that solo group she just talked about. She liked it so much that she bought it. And we're going to do all of that right after this.
When traveling in your RV, how do you navigate? Do you use a paper map, a GPS, or do you use Google Maps? Our sponsor, RV Trip Wizard, has the solution, and it just works. It just works. And if Jenell had that before she got on that dirt road over that bridge without a turnaround. RV Trip Wizard would not have led her down the road. It was an adventure, it sounds like, but I like to be a little bit less adventurous when it comes to the roads we drive down, and we don't move our RV without consulting with RV Trip Wizard.
It just works, and we believe it. Jenell, you use it too, right?
Absolutely, I do. And I do wish I'd have had that on that dirt road. You better believe I use that.
So before the break, you were talking about you found this group and you got together. Now, this is a group, and I think maybe should let you describe it. It's a group of solo campers that travel together. So
Yes.
Can you just give me like that nickel tour of what the hell is this group and what's it called?
It's called Wandering Individuals Network. And you said it. We travel alone, but together. We want this RV lifestyle, but we want to be with people, have friends. We want to go to dinner with somebody. We want to go to a museum, sightsee, kayak with somebody. It's a perfect mix for the solo traveler.
Okay, perfect mix for the solo traveler. How does it work? Let's get into the details of it. How do I sign up? No, I can't because I have Dan with me. How does it work? Who is it for? Give us a little bit of the details of the group.
All right. If you wanted to travel, you could travel with us, Patty, if Dan wasn't coming with you. It's not that we're against couples. It's just we don't want it to be all couples. We're single. We've been at that table with 8 people and the one single chair beside us. So we want to be our own, we're our own little subculture. So it is for the solo traveler. If Dan didn't want to come one time, you could come with us. It's for solo. Basically what you do is you become a member. And it's by the year, and then you have access to all the circuits. I want to say we have 8 up now. And a circuit is a travel plan. We go anywhere from, 6-7 weeks to 3 months. It all depends on what it is. And then you just show up whenever you want and you leave whenever you want. And you can walk up and greet us because we are exactly the same as you. We want to be with friends, but want to travel on our own.
Now, a camping experience like this, and again, I'd like to get into the details of this.
Okay.
So let's talk about, going on a circuit and camping. And I was reading on your website that there's a circuit coming up that had 17 stops, and you were going to be at some national parks. Does everybody pay for their own camping, or do you make the reservations for everybody, or how does that part of the system work?
Yes, we have a circuit that's starting actually yesterday, May 11th, it started. It is called the Northwest. We're going to go through the national parks, Oregon and Washington. And we do a lot of boondocking. We find BLM land, just spots over the years that we have found that accommodate 10, 20, sometimes 30 RVs. We may have to split the group in 2. But when you look at the circuit, you see the dates, the GPS or the address, and then you show up there. If you need reservations, we're not big on reservations. If you need them, though, it's listed there and you call, recreation.gov. If you need those, you'll know it off the top.
Okay. So jump. I like the part where you could jump in, jump out, do it for as long as you want or as short as you want. What about meals? Do you plan meals together? How does that work?
Good question. And we get that a lot, funny enough. People want to know, where's the food? Based on the fact that we travel on our own, I have my own groceries, my own food, my own way of eating, our picky eaters and all that. We will maybe go out to eat together. We do a burn your own, which is you bring your meat and a side dish and we all eat together. And then a lot of times, frankly, we just bring our own plate of food and meet at the picnic tables at 6 o'clock or 5 o'clock, whatever it is. And we all just eat and hang out together. We have a 4 o'clock, meeting every day, if you will, where we discuss the events, maybe have an adult beverage, and then discuss meal plans from there.
So it's very casual. It's very, very laid back. And for me personally, I prefer that. Dan and I have gone, with groups before, groups of friends. We've gone with clubs like AIM, which is part of National Indoor RV Centers, and Escapees, those types of clubs. And it's very regimented, like dinner's being served at 5:30. There's entertainment at 7. And I like that at times, but I really am a fly by the seat of my pants kind of person. So that sounds amazing. to be able to do that.
This is the type of club that is exactly that. Remember, the bulk of us are full-time or at least travel the bulk of the year. And so we don't want to go every single day. I mean, we're traveling every single day or we're somewhere new. We travel like maybe a week here and there, 10 days, just depending on the location. We have to schedule in a laundry day. I mean, we got to do laundry. So if you want to go that much, you can, but generally we don't. Although, as I say that, we have a kayaking trip going on right now in North Arkansas, Southern Missouri, where they're kayaking every day. So it's as much as you want it or as little as you want.
Okay, so the concept, I'm loving the concept. I'm still having a hard time getting my head around the whole process. So I want to bring it back to basics for the listener. So it's a group of solo people. So these are all people that have an RV and themselves, and your group brings them all together, and then you go on what we call circuits, and you go from A to B to C, and there might be 17, 18 stops. I think the one I read had 17 stops as you're going through Oregon and that type of stuff. Now, I guess me being the director, producer my whole life, I look at logistics. You're on the RV Life podcast where tens of thousands of people are going to be listening to this podcast, and they're all going to want to join you at once. What do you do? When you have too many people, you say, well, you see where we are in the GPS market, and then too many people show up. How does that work? Talk to me a little bit about logistics.
It's funny you say that, Dan, because so many people, this is so easy. People have trouble with it. They're like, but what do I, after you join, you will have a list, the date, the list, the exact time, or the exact GPS or address. You show up there. The leader, the host of the event, if they see that there's, too many, we can only do 7 RVs, 12 RVs, we'll send an alert out and saying you can't show up this day. We're going to stagger it a day or two. Remember, we've had this club since 1988. We've come up with everything has happened. Fires, floods, too many RVs, wrecking each other RVs, in a camp minute. Oh, yeah, please. It's all happened. So we know what to do. People just don't believe it's this easy. You just show up and have a good time.
Wow. And again, it's the attitude. I love the attitude of don't complicate things. It's been around since 1988. That's pretty amazing. And it sounds like you've worked out the bugs and it's all about being easy. But then the club's been around since 1988 and you decide to buy it. Tell us what led up to that decision.
The club was started in 1988 by 7 people sitting around a campfire, solo, single people, and not having anybody, just each other, the only ones they knew to travel with. And, after a while, you get sick of the same old 7 people. So they decided to have this club, and it has just grown and grown. I mean, we're in the thousands now of current members, past members. So when I joined it, I loved it right away. That in California, when I walked up and they were so nice to me and welcoming, sit down, hey, come over here. They were so nice. I'm like, I love this group. And as we've established, I'm a go big or go home girl. I, within the year, was like, I should buy this club. I can do this club. I could do better. I could do more. The guy that owned it, fabulous, great. He'd had it 10 years, had grown it significantly. But, remember 10 years ago, clubs like ours didn't have websites and LLCs, and he did all that. He did great. But he was getting older, and when I approached him, I said, I can take this to the next level. I can do social media. I can take this to the next level. I'm 10 years younger, 15 years younger than you. I've got the energy to do this. And God only knows where we'll end up with me at the helm.
Okay, because this is relatively new. You just purchased it in March. And I just want to say, I don't think we ever mentioned it is for men or women. It's not like I've seen some solo women's groups, but this is for both. So somebody new or out there and they're thinking about a club or, joining your group. There are a lot of clubs out there. So there's Escapees. And as we mentioned, AIM, FMCA, I could go on and on. Just a little bit of, and they're great clubs, but just a little bit more about the difference in those type of clubs and the activities that they do compared to what your group does.
That's a good question, a good statement there, Patty, because I'm a member of some of those as well, and they are good groups. Our group is different a couple of reasons. Number one, because we're all solo. All right. We do have some romances, but we are all solo. We go for more than 1 week. We're not just 1 week. You can travel with us circuit to circuit to circuit and never go home, literally, and do all kind of things throughout Mexico, Canada, and all of the United States. So that's what makes us different. Also, what makes us different is we teach you how to boondock. We teach you how to be off grid if you choose, if you want. We can teach you, and you'll learn by being around us how to live this life. That's what makes us different, I think.
You know, again, I'm listening to what you're saying, and I think that this is like one of the greatest things out there, especially for that solo piece. And I just wonder if you don't want to even start a second club that's just for couples, because I think there's a lot of want and need for just the couples out there. But again, I'm that very practical guy, so I'm thinking about going out on a 4-month journey, and this circuit has 17 stops, and there's 40 RVs in this caravan that I'm going on. But what about that one idiot that's running his generator at 1:00 in the morning every single night? His dog is barking and he's got the radio blasting. How do you there's something about being alone, but then there's something else about being together with a group.
Yeah, good point. And, whenever you have people, you have the idiots for sure. I will say our idiot ratio is low. We have them, but they're low because they'll either get rid of them own selves because of their actions, or we frankly just tell them you're not a good fit for us. That's only happened a handful of times, really. But we establish rules right off the bat. Hey, no generators after this. We don't allow politics. We don't allow religion. So we just keep it very simple. And we make sure everybody knows this is a happy, great group. We are drama-free. We want a good life. We just don't have that many problems. If anything, we have more romance issues than any idiot generator people.
I've been waiting to ask about that. What happens with the romance on the road? Have you ever had people get married or people kind of no longer become solo, if we could say it that way? So tell us about that.
Yes. Well, anytime you put the birds and the bees together, there's going to be honey. Yes, we do have that. And, I'm not the monitor of this. Nobody's the monitor. You're a big boy, girl. You do what you want to do. If you do get married and stay a member, we, again, this is a great life, easy life, no problems. You can stay with us. We don't like you to, we don't let married people join. Well, I shouldn't say that. You can join, but we want you to travel solo just to keep kind of the integrity of the club and for what it stands for. We do allow both men and women. And so we want everybody to be comfortable, not feel left out. So we do keep that. But we've had where they were together, then they're not together. And then now he's with this one and she's with this one. And we're all around the same campfire. And, we got to have some entertainment.
Sounds like a reality TV show. We should get some cameras out there.
In the making. Yes, it does.
Well, I just want to put out to all of your members that Patty and I are full-time. And even though we are a couple, I am one of those internet ministers, so I can do that wedding service no matter where you are in the country. We can meet up and we'll do it live on the RV Life podcast. I'm kind of thinking about this, and it really brings up that thought of what's next. Where is the club going? Does membership of the club say, look, we'd really like to set up this kind of a thing? How do you decide what you're going to do next? And what are your plans to do next?
We have tried and true favorites like the Northwest Circuit. Every year we do that because everybody wants to do, we have a faction every year. We have an Arizona Circuit in winter. They want every year. But to growing the club, I'm going to start offering standalone events, maybe, a week here and there for like some of our former members who are off the road now, but still want to see their win friends. So I'm going to start offering some events like that. And we're branching out more. Like we have the kayaking. I'm fixing to offer a bicycle tour through Idaho, Wyoming, South Dakota for those of us, that like that type of life. So the club will remain the same, but we're just going to get some rings on it, if you will, kind of broaden it, expand it a little more. Our membership is getting younger. Our older members, although we've got some 75-year-olds that will hook up a fifth wheel and out hike every one of us. But our membership now tends to be in the 55, 6 newer ones coming in. And so we want to, kind of be all things to the whole group if possible.
Do me a favor. Tell me a story about something that's happened on the road or some event that you've put together or been at, even because you have a lot of experience doing this. Tell our listeners a story about lifestyle, being solo, but being together with a whole bunch of people.
We had a circuit that I led before I owned it that went from Florida to Maine. We got to Maine and it was the end of the circuit. Somebody had already been on that circuit, knew of a place in Maine where we could go buy lobsters right off the dock in Maine. So we all went down there, bought 2 or 3 lobsters, came back to where we were staying, which was a parking lot of the Elks Lodge. And we boiled up our lobsters and we all sat there with a table and having our adult beverages and eating lobster with our hands, and potatoes were on the table. And I, for one, and 2 or 3 others had mentioned this to me, had such a fulfillment, happy moment there that I remember this a couple of years later of what a life we lead. There's another one that I always tell. We were in Grand Canyon. Everybody's been to Grand Canyon. We've all walked out there and seen it. Did you know that Grand Canyon has 13 miles that you can only get to by hiking or riding a bike? And so our group was able to ride a bike all through Grand Canyon. And it was the most surreal, otherworldly experience to have this, and that not everybody gets to have this because they mostly just walk out and see Grand Canyon.
So this is about attitude. I love the attitude. And that's why when you reached out to me and then we spoke, I could just feel this attitude, this mindset, call it what you want. You talk about getting out there and enjoying something like sitting around and eating lobster. It's sometimes not that that's a small thing, but the smaller things, enjoying the Grand Canyon, really taking time, as Dan and I always end every one of our YouTube channels with our YouTube videos with enjoy the journey. And I think that's so much of what it's about. And I hear that in everything you're saying, but it's what you're seeing. It's mindset. It's not rushing from one thing to the next. So I love that. Now, I know there's a lot of our listeners that are going to want to find you, find the group. How can they get to you, find the group? And just so everybody knows, we'll also put it in the show notes.
Great. Thank you very much. Yeah, we have a website, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all that, the usual social media, but it's Wandering Individuals Network. Our Instagram is winsrvclub, WINS standing for Wandering Individual Network, WINS RV Club. And you can go right on there and learn about us. And then, there's the option to join if you want. And then my email is on there. I get people that email me all the time, every day, basically. And I'll be glad to help answer questions, tell you where we're going. We allow anybody to come and stay with us for one stop free, just to see if this is a good fit for them.
Jenell, it is really, really great talking to you. As a matter of fact, if you would, I'd like for you to stick around with us after the break. We have our question of the week. I'd like to have you answer or help me answer that question of the week. And we also have a secret about Jenell, and she is the absolute first person to ever do this. So we're going to talk about all of that right after this break on the RV Life podcast.
Does dropping your motor coach off at the truck stop full of semi-trailers for new tires give you nightmares? Eliminate the unknown and get your new motorhome tires mounted while you watch at your campsite or wherever you are parked. Motorhometires.com takes care of the entire process for you. We come to you with your new tires, mount them, add balance beads, and we even dispose of your old tires. With motorhometires.com, you'll also enjoy great prices and new tires with guaranteed fresh date codes, and enjoy sweet dreams instead of truck stop nightmares with your friends at motorhometires.com.
Protecting your RV investment means being ready for anything. An extended RV warranty from Wholesale Warranties is the best way to make sure that if an RV failure happens, you can afford to get back to enjoying the RV life as soon as possible. RV warranties are available for motorhomes, fifth wheels, and travel trailers, new and used, across the U.S. Visit wholesalewarranties.com for a free personalized RV warranty quote today and hit the road with peace of mind tomorrow.
You're listening to the RV Life Podcast. I'm Dan Hunt with my incredible wife, Patty Hump. Our guest today, Jenell Jones. Oh, my goodness. We have had such a great time talking to her today. I'm just, when I meet somebody that has the same positive outlook and the same positive attitude, I just want to jump and do flips.
Absolutely. And it's everything we could do not to just keep going on and on on our podcast, because it is so exciting when we talk to somebody like Jenell. Thank you for being on the show. It really has been great. And we're going to be waiting for you to start the part of the club where it's for couples. Okay.
Wait a minute, Patty. You're making it sound like the show's over.
Nope.
We still got 10 minutes.
Yes, we do.
Okay.
We've got a lot of exciting things coming up.
So, Jenell, we just had a commercial from one of our sponsors, and the sponsors are all very important. And one of our sponsors that I was just listening to there, it's rvtires.com. Tell me, Jenell, have you had, your rig's fairly new, but have you had to go through that process of getting new tires on one of your rigs in your life?
I have. I had a blowout on my right front tire, and I wish I'd have known about that sponsor of yours, because I would have definitely called him, because we had trouble getting a tire. I was on a windy road, blocked traffic for 2 hours, and had to get one of the back tires, the doubles in the back, one of the back tires taken off and put on the front. And I limped to a parking lot and sat there, literally an abandoned parking lot, while we all scrambled around to find me a tire. And
that's one of the great things about RV tires is they come to you wherever you are on the side of the road. If you're in a campground and you decide to get new tires, and the blowout service, that is something that it really is something that I guess a lot of us don't think about it, but we really probably should.
Yes, and it's motorhometires.com. And just want to be clear, because we also needed tires, and boy, what a scramble. Not as difficult a situation as you were in, but we did have to scramble to find a place to get the right tires.
And I haven't made a video out of this yet, but I do have the video footage at the Tampa RV show. I was with them, and I went into their booth, and we were doing a little piece in their booth and doing a quick interview. But motorhome tires, when they're not on the motorhome for the big Class A's, they're really big. There was a stack of 4 of them there. I got inside the tires because they are just so big. It was really, really interesting for us. Okay. So, Jenell, people like to know about, the owner of a company like this, and especially somebody with this positive lifestyle. Now, you spent your life as a law enforcement officer. You worked your way up the ranks. You and I talked off air about your career a little bit. Do you miss it? Do you miss it today? Do you miss working? Are you loving retirement? Are you loving traveling? I mean, I know we love this lifestyle. I kind of think you do too.
I don't miss that one single solitary bit. Each month when my pension check comes, I'm very grateful and very happy. But when I worked there, I gave 110%. I mean, I worked 60-hour weeks. I gave it everything I had. I tried to help people. When I left, I was on top. I left with a clear conscience. I was blessed. I never had to hurt anybody. Nobody ever hurt me, seriously. So when I left, I was done. And I was ready for the next big thing in my life, which who knew it would be driving 60 feet of vehicle down the road all over the country. Didn't see that one coming.
Now, you mentioned that you tow a Jeep. We just did a series of videos on flat towing our Jeep. Have you had any issues with the towing other than wrapping your Jeep around a gas pump at one time? Have you had any other issues flat towing that Jeep?
Not really. I actually got rid of the Jeep and I bought a Nissan because it was lighter and it was more like a regular vehicle. You're not supposed to back them up. And of course, I do every once in a while when I get in a gas station and have overshot the pumps. I'll back it up a few feet. But no, not really. I mean, once you learn how to hook up, I can hook up in 5 minutes and be very comfortable with it.
Now, we have a whole video over on Exploring Through Our Lens, our YouTube channel, where we did it wrong. Our Jeep actually had a locking steering wheel, and everybody told us Jeeps don't have a locking steering wheel. So we followed the YouTube advice, and we put the Jeep on the back of the RV and towed it down the road, and we burnt up all 4 of our tires. And there's a whole video so you can watch and laugh at Patty and I over that one right there. But right now, I feel like I hear something. That's it. It's time for Pat Buchanan and the RV Trip Wizard.
Pat Buchanan with his RV Life Pro Tip of the Week.
New RV Life Trip Wizard customers are often surprised to see how many campgrounds are displayed on the map. To help narrow the selection of which campgrounds to add to your trip, use the filters feature built into the research menu. You can filter based on your preference of park type, rating, reviews, hookups, amenities, price, and club memberships, just to name a few. Virtually every part of the RV lifestyle can be identified and filtered to show you the campgrounds, RV parks, state parks, and more that are important to you. You'll find much of the same filtering available on the RV Life Pro mobile app as well for those spur-of-the-moment journeys. Create your best RV trip with the best filtering available. I'm Pat Buchanan with your RV Life Pro Tip of the Week.
Thank you, Pat Buchanan. And filtering is something we've used on the RV Trip Wizard, and that is probably one of the best features on RV Trip Wizard, being able to filter down the type of campgrounds you want to stay at.
Okay, so let's get back into and you know, I know my mind's reeling about your organization and how it works, and I guess I'd like to talk to you a little bit more about some of those best circuits that you talk about. You said you had the tried and true circuits. Tell me about, 2 or 3 of those circuits that are tried and true, and you've been doing them for years, and people really, really love them. So talk to us a little bit about some of those circuits.
All right, let's talk about Mexico. A lot of people want to go to Mexico, but they're afraid. So our group has been going to Mexico for years and years, and we meet in Organ Pipe, Arizona, and go as a group down. People have gone. So when the new ones come, they're, afraid, but yet we have got it down pat. We know how to get through the border, what documents you need. And we go 60 miles down and stay at a campground right on the beach that we've been staying at forever. We get a great, cheap price. And I'm talking in the single digit price. The owner or the manager knows us. We have it down pat. So that's a great circuit for a new person who wants to travel outside the United States, but is afraid. We're going to Canada in August of this year. A lot of people want to go to Canadian Maritimes. We're going to do for 8 weeks, I think it is. So, people don't know how to go across the border into Canada, or they're afraid to go. Although Canada's safe, but just afraid to go into another country on our own. You go with us. We've been there. We know what a circuit is. There's safety in numbers. If you break down, we'll figure out something, whether it's hanging out with you while you call, your warranty people or the tire change people. They're just, when you travel alone together, it's just easier. Now, trying to park 10 RVs in a small parking lot is, I'll tell you different then. But for the most part, when you join us, it's easier to travel by yourself, but with your friends.
One of my bucket list items, you just talked about it. So say that there was 10 of us together. One of my bucket list items is to do the old wagon train circle and park all the RVs in a circle and then have your camp in the center. Is that something that you guys do sometimes?
Yeah. When we go to Quartzsite, which we generally go every year in January with every other RVer in the world, we definitely do. We do in the middle, we meet there. We have events all week there, but it's definitely the chuck wagon pull around. Yes. Now,
a couple of years ago, we were at Quartzsite. We were unofficially with the Escapees group, and you guys, your group was actually right across the road from us, and a couple of us walked over just to introduce ourselves and talk. If you're listening to this podcast and you want an independent, recommendation. These were just the most friendly people in the world. You know, I mean, they just talked about who they are. They talked about what they are. They talked about they were just absolutely, genuinely great, friendly people.
Yes, just very welcoming. And again, I think it goes to mindset and attitude, and you certainly have that. But yeah, it's just, I mean, we could probably talk forever on this, but it just is that type of group. And I think if you're solo, you should at least check it out. And I'd love that you said, you know, somebody could come check it out one time for free to see if it's the right feel for them. That's awesome.
You know, Jenell, tell me one more. Let's not talk about RVing, but when you get to a place, you go on a hike, you go to a place, what's the most incredible? Patty and I have seen some incredible things on our journey. What is the most incredible thing that you have seen or done on your journeys?
Well, I've got 100 things, but I'm sure you're going to cut me off at some point. So I'll go with this one. Last year, 6 of us, well, a bunch of us in the group, but us 6 kind of together decided to try for the wave, the Coyote Butts Wave, that famous hike. We decided it's a lottery. And the last figures that I have in 2020, 200,000 people tried for this lottery. And one of our guys won. And so we got to hike the wave. That is 3 miles in, walk around it, and 3 miles out. And you're like on a slant the whole way. And it was hot. But you talk about a bucket list, incredible. I didn't know that 200,000 people a year try. I didn't, but you know, we knew we had to do a lottery, and if we win, fine. If we don't, whatever. But if you're not familiar with that, look that up. It is, if it's not a 7 wonder of the world, it should be. It's an incredible piece, magnificent, colossal. I don't know all the words to you, that is like dropped down in the middle of this desert-like atmosphere. And it was totally worth the, I think, $9, $18 we spent trying to win the lottery.
You know, that sounds like just an incredible thing to do. But right now,
that sound means it's time for the question of the week. And this question is from Liam, and he's from Boise, Idaho. And Jenell, we're so happy you're going to stay and give us your thoughts on this question.
Now, I'm going to lean into your 20 some odd plus years of experience on this question. And this is a question, I think on social media, we've seen it quite a few times. And this question comes from Jenell. Patty, why don't you read this one?
And the question is, I am full-time with my wife and have a handgun. What are the best practices for traveling from state to state? Thank you, Liam. He is a social media. He's a listener, and he sent us that question on social media. So thank you.
Now, but before we get into the answer to this, I'm going to caution everybody that in the research that I did before we did this show, gun laws are primarily state, and they are vastly different from state to state. So, Jenell, I know you keep a weapon. What are your practices, and what kind of advice could you give to other RVers for best practices here?
I appreciate that you said it's state to state, and it is. Some states are extremely strict, and some are like Texas. You walk around with them on your hip. There's nothing to worry about. But for me, my best practices is, yes, I do have a weapon. I think it evens the odds for me. It evens the odds. But, just some practical, normal advice. I wouldn't ever go flinging it around or leaving it out. I have it secured. I have it where it's accessible but secured, especially when driving and the rattling. I don't want it to rattle off and be flinging around on the floor of the RV. But if you were going to stay somewhere in a certain state for a while and was going to take it back and forth from your car to your RV, I would definitely check into the laws in that state to make sure that you are being compliant.
Yeah, so the laws, the local state laws are very, very different. And I guess my practice is, when I'm traveling, when I'm actually moving and I know that it might be a 2-state day or 3-state day, I actually put the weapon in the safe in our RV. And the ammunition, I move it out and I put it in the glove box or a locked compartment in the vehicle, which is being towed behind me, just to keep them separate, because we used to live in the Philadelphia region, which is right next door to New Jersey, which has the most stringent gun laws in the country. So you had to make sure that things were separated that way. So I just have followed that practice whenever we go state to state.
It's actually a good idea to do. You're not going to ever get in any trouble doing it that way. You go to the most stringent state, that's what they want you to do. So, like I said, that's a great idea. That's a great, as far as best practices, that's a good idea. I would never recommend putting it on the dash or put it in your lap or putting it on the console there. Why? You're looking to get yourself hurt. If the cops pull you over, you're looking for big trouble then. And it's not necessary. It's not necessary to do that.
Right.
I 100% agree with that. Now, let me ask you one more question, Terry. Have you ever given anybody a ticket ever?
Yes, I've given people tickets.
Okay, so have you ever given anybody a ticket in an RV?
I'm gonna say no, I didn't. I don't think so. I don't think so. But remember, when I was on the road, like was what early 90s, mid 90s, the RVs weren't like they are now. You didn't see them every 10 vehicles. You saw an RV. They just weren't around as much.
Right. They've certainly increased in numbers. That's for sure. So if somebody gets stopped, not us, but if somebody gets stopped by a police officer while we're in the RV, is there some suggestions? Like, can a police officer come into the RV? And again, I'm going to guess that's a state to state.
That's two good questions, Patty. I'll start with the first one. If you're driving your RV and you get pulled over, the cop and me, and I'm sure cops will have different opinions. My opinion is me being an ex-cop, I would like one person, the driver, to get out, come around the vehicle, stand where I can see them as I approach. Don't put your hands in your pockets. You don't have to put your hands up, but keep your hands where I can see them, and just don't go to the officer. Let him or her come to you. And that way they still feel like they're in control of the situation of what's going on. And they'll ask you, are you the driver? Anybody else in the vehicle or in the RV? Then ask them to come out. They probably won't. Your second question was, can they come in? If you invite them in, yes. But technically, it's your house. So they had to have a search warrant. Now, there's extenuating circumstances and all that. But just for a kind of easy black and white, no, they cannot come in unless they're invited without a search warrant.
You say that, and we did a video. We weren't allowed to put it up, but in California, when you go over the border to California, they have the agricultural check stations. And I was all worried about the agricultural check stations. So we actually said to the guys, hey, we have a bunch of oranges here that we just bought back there at the Giant. And, are we allowed to bring him in? He's like, well, I'm not sure. Let me take a look at him. And he was very, very nice. So we let him in, and we were shooting a video just to show people what it was like to go through these systems and what kind of questions they asked. But the state of California asked us not to use that video, so we didn't use it. But so what I think I heard you say is you can invite them in, but they don't necessarily have the right to come in unless they felt there was probable cause.
Exactly. Again, there's exigent circumstances. Somebody getting beat up, somebody getting killed, child abuse, there's exigent circumstances. But for an easy black and white, they need a search warrant to come into your home, just like a regular sticks and bricks house. And frankly, even if you invite the cops in, 99% I bet won't step in. They don't. It's an environment they don't know, they can't control, and why do that? So they will have everybody step out. That's why you've never seen a cop sitting in the front seat of your car giving you a ticket or talking to you. They have you step out or stay in the car so that they can control the situation should it go bad.
Well, Liam, I think you got more of an answer than you could ever want there. I mean, we just happen to have an ex-officer of the law on the show today to talk about that. Now, I teased before the break that Jenell is somebody very, very special to the RV Life podcast. Patty, why don't you tell me why Jenell is so special?
Well, what's very special, and again, Jenell is our 30th episode. So we've been, how many months in? Somebody else do the math. But Jenell is a loyal listener of the RV Life podcast. And she reached out to us by email and said, hey, I love the podcast, whatever she said. And I think I might be a good guest. And so I really appreciate you doing that, Jenell. And for anybody else out there that has an interesting story or something interesting they want to talk about, reach out to us, RV Life Podcast, what's the email? I'll put all of it in the show notes. You can reach out on social media. That's RV Life Podcast, Instagram or Facebook. Certainly give us your comments, your, thoughts, who you'd like to hear on the show. But I just want to thank Jenell. Thank you for reaching out. It's been amazing. We've had an amazing time talking to you.
Well, thank you very much for having me, you guys. I appreciate it. I heard on one of your podcasts a little while back that there's over 1 million people who identify as living in their RVs. And so right then I realized that we might be a good fit because there's a segment of them that travel solo and that need this club or would benefit from this club. That's why I thought we would be a very good mix. And it turns out we have been a good mix.
We sure have. Absolutely. And a lifelong friend. And I hope to catch you down the road, as they say.
We can't be part of the group, but we certainly could park right next to you guys and hang out an evening or two. So we really look forward to that. That email address is rvlifepodcast@gmail.com. All of the social media you can reach out to us on, whether it's our website, whether it's our Facebook page, whether it's our Instagram page, all of that stuff. Yeah.
Yes. And I do answer every email, every question, every comment. I answer all of it.
That's right. She does. And we are so happy that our listenership is reaching out because that's what we started this for, is to create an RV life community. So thank you so much for listening. We truly appreciate it. My name is Dan Hunt. I'm with my incredible wife, Patty Hunt, saying have a great rest of today.
And an even better day tomorrow.